minimizing the number of COVID cases that have come through our program. I mean, it's been minimal. I mean, right now, a group of 25, I mean, we've had 3 positive tests since July. And so the main thing throughout the course of this year was to make sure that we kept our guys safe, not just from COVID, but mentally as well. And, we've done that. And so for us, there's no need to put us in harm's way. That's my job, is to make sure I don't put our players in harm's way. And, based off of kind of what's transpired, it's just not the risk, and maybe that risk is minimal, but it's just not worth us jeopardizing, especially when we've had so few cases. And now, you run the risk of where you lose maybe the rest of the season if something were to happen, if you go to Utah State. And so it's unfortunate. Was looking forward to playing them. If they think that we're dodging them, trying to play them, well, you can come look at my computer and you can look at all the clips and you can see how red my eyes were trying to figure out how we were going to score against them. And so it's just the reality of the world we live in right now. And as said, it's my job not to put my guys at risk who have done a tremendous job. And it wouldn't be fair for them to, have to, run the risk of getting COVID. And then lo and behold, now that's 2 weeks, who knows, return to play 3 weeks. And then now you lose out on your last 4 games in the season. And then who knows with the conference tournament. So tough decisions are having made at times, and wasn't a decision that was made by me, but support what was the decision that was made, and we'll move forward. Michael.
Jeff, at this point, are you expecting that series and the UNLV series to be made up with the time left?
That's a good question. A question I don't have the answer to. I think that's a question that's more, at the conference level. I know there's a lot of moving parts, but as of right now, I don't have an answer to that question.
Jeff, how much were you, this team needs experience and it needs to learn on the fly, like we've talked about a lot. How much were you looking forward to maybe that EK and Quato matchup in this one? And do you kind of see Graham and him at all?
Well, I mean, having played against Quato, we, at Northern Colorado, we had scrimmaged Utah State, the prior 2 years. And so the first time I saw Quato, I was like, man, where did that guy come from? Because you don't realize how big he is until you see him in person. But was looking forward to Graham going up against him. Now, there's still time left in the season, whether the games get rescheduled or the conference tournament. But, it was an opportunity for Graham to kind of see, going up against a high-level guy, defensive player of the year type of guy, a guy that, really, he allows them to be elite defensively. And so it's unfortunate, but, just goes back to just proud of the fact that we've put ourselves in position to play every single game. That's all we can control is what we do. And when you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds and sometimes they don't necessarily make the best decisions, but our guys have done a really good job of making good decisions where it's put ourselves in position to play every single game. We haven't, our non-conference, we played every single game. And conference leading up to this point, we've been ready to play. We're able to play, but and I'm proud of our guys and our program for being able to do that. Michael.
How do you guys kind of handle this week then? And just in terms of, is it just focusing on you guys?
We've been dealing with it since July. It's just, it's not like we have an abundance of players. I think for us too, this is even during a regular season. This is like the dog days. This is where you're trying to fight through things. And it's even more so the dog days, when you add COVID to the mix, you add the fact that these guys haven't had a break and they haven't had a break from us. I'm sure we probably could have used a couple of days of going out and recruiting to get a break from them. But they've heard the same voices over and over again. It's like Groundhog's Day. And so for our guys to have a little bit, just to decompress, and then just kind of focus on them, focus on, we just got back into school and making sure we're handling things on that end. And then, just individual work and then focusing more on us. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, going against Mexico, if you can't rebound, it's not, it's going to be a tough game, but we'll worry about that when the time comes. But in the meantime, we'll just focus on us. Davis.
Jeff, what has the mood and just the energy level been like at practice coming off that CSU series?
I mean, yesterday, what's today? Tuesday. I mean, yesterday was our first day back. So, I mean, the guys were good. I mean, they know they're close, but they're also not very close. I mean, look at Colorado State, and I mean, you sit there and say, I mean, they're one game out of first place. I mean, a half game out of first place. So, guys, I mean, you played them well, but at the same time, too, there's a reason why you lost the game. And so, for those guys to understand that, to see that. I thought we came out and practiced really well yesterday. Nobody felt sorry for themselves. I mean, as I told them, I mean, the team that just won the Super Bowl the night before, I mean, the Patriots lost 3 games in the month of November. But, what did they have? They had, the best player that's ever played that has the character that keeps those guys going. And, lo and behold, you never know when things are going to click, especially with a new team. I mean, Tampa Bay was a new team. You had Fournette, you had all those new pieces that they had to add and trying to put all those pieces together. And that's a lot like us. I mean, young team, you never know when it'll just click. And so we just got to keep just trying to find a way to get a little bit better each day, and knowing that, right now, yeah, we're not going to win the conference championship, but, let's put ourselves in a position to be playing our best come the conference tournament. Cody.
Jeff, I don't think J.O.'s played more than 10 minutes in the last 8 games. What do you need to see out of him? What does he need to prove to you guys to get more minutes, and would it be more beneficial to? It seems like his points always raise and his numbers raise when he's on the court more.
Well, I mean, if that was the case, he'd be on the court more. So I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's fortunately for him, we had to when Owen went down, we had to kind of move him over to the 5 just because we didn't have very many bodies because Graham wasn't back yet, and it's hard to play college basketball, and it's really hard when you're a freshman. So, I mean, you see some of the success some of those other freshmen have had, and you think everybody should have that. Well, there's very few freshmen in the country that, they're having some of the seasons that some of our freshmen are having. And so for him, it's just, try to figure out, he's kind of making that adjustment where, you have to read and react a lot more in our offense. And so he's just, it takes some time and it takes some guys a little bit longer than others, but it hasn't affected his work ethic. I mean, he's always in here watching film. He's always in the gym working out. I mean, it's just sometimes it takes some guys a little bit longer than others. And the way he's played, I mean, he had, good minutes against CSU, and I see his minutes definitely going up as we move forward. But, sometimes just the way the rotation is right now, just kind of where it's at. Tracy.
Graham got that start against CSU in the second game. Do you see him growing more and more into being part of the regular part of the lineup?
Well, I mean, not sure how his role would change or why he would get out if he almost got a double-double. I mean, went out and got 14 and 9, and I don't think, and he allows us to be a lot better defensively. And so, I mean, right now, unless something to change, that's where he's going to be, and I don't see it changing anytime in the near future. Tracy, continue.
Yeah, it's obvious it's got to be a pleasant surprise, but how surprised are you that he has come back and adapted and got into the flow of things as quickly as he has?
Not surprised from the fact that, I saw him play for, saw him so much in high school, and that's why we recruited him so hard. And we knew, that's the beauty of taking care of your own backyard. We knew kind of what he was, and not just we just knew from a cerebral standpoint, and his feel for the game. That's what allows guys to play early on at this level, and ultimately allows you to be a really good player at this level. And he's got an unbelievable feel for the game. And that's what allows him, even having not played for 14 months, he just naturally understands the flow of the game. And so as he gets in better shape and as he continues to work on his body, he's only a baby. He just turned 18 in August. So he's got a lot of room to grow. And,
he's going to be a guy that, says he's got a chance to be, a dominant big in the Mountain West. Sean.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you a quick question. In your offense, who else would you be looking for to keep up the offensive scoring production aside from Marcus Williams going down the stretch?
I think for us, it's kind of we're pretty balanced. You got, depends on the game. I thought, X had been, doing a good job of, he had been scoring at a pretty good rate. Now he had expended so much energy guarding Isaiah Stevens. He missed some shots. Going into that last game, he was shooting 54% from the three in conference. But that's, when you got to expend that much energy chasing Stevens around for 2 games, sometimes, especially for a younger guy like that, who's not used to doing that, your offense starts to struggle. But, I think it's a collective effort. Quan finds a way to get his 10 or 12 points. Maldo, he's somewhere between 10 to 12 as well. That's where you miss Kenny, because that's that other guy that you feel like, when you're not making threes, he's another guy that can go get a basket off a cut or an offensive rebound. So we really miss Kenny in terms of his ability to play off of Marcus, play off of Quan, play off of Maldo. He's such a good cutter and has such good feel off the ball. And so that's kind of missing that extra shooter, especially with, Drake, even though he shot the ball better against, in that second game against Colorado State. He hadn't been shooting the ball great, but, right now, it's just by committee. Hopefully we can get, Hunter here and maybe some of these next games where teams are playing zone, get him freed up a little bit. But right now, it's, you got 7, 8 guys. It's kind of depends on the game and depends on the matchups. Davis.
Jeff, with the pandemic obviously still going on, are you comfortable with the league still trying to get all 11 teams to convene in Vegas and play a tournament there? Would you like to see something maybe more, try to keep more on campus?
I think regardless of what's decided, and right now, if that's Vegas, is that, I know there's a couple coaches, and one being Leon at Boise who would like for, the number of teams to be lowered. And that's just, that's not fair for the guys that have, for the kids like us who've had to, do everything we can to put ourselves in position to play games. And and that's what you're fighting for, is to play, that's what you do this for, is to play in the conference tournament. So, I think you still got, everybody needs to be there. Now where that's at, to be determined, but it sounds like Vegas, but, we just got to be ready to go when the time comes. And that's where that's at right now. That's why, one of the reasons why we're not going to Utah State is because, we don't want to risk the fact that, 3 weeks from now, if you have somebody pop positive now, because I got a lot of guys that haven't got COVID. And now you run the risk of getting a lot of guys, and you run that, and then now we're done. Now you're going 2 weeks out, return to play protocol 3 weeks, and now you're rolling into maybe the conference tournament without having played a game in 3 weeks, and you got no chance. Cody.
Jeff, Graham seems like such a nice guy. Does that dude have a mean streak in him whatsoever? Do you want to see him get a little meaner down there?
Did you watch the Nevada game in the second half when he got a technical?
That would be the yeah, I did. That would be the one time I saw.
If you're really watching up close, he's a really nice guy off the court, but he's got a mean streak in him when he's on the court. So he's, there's poodles, there's yellow labs, and there's pit bulls, and he falls along the lines of probably having a little bit of, he's probably a yellow lab pit mix, and you don't need a lot of pit bulls, but you need a couple. Sean.
Yeah, my bad on that. Couldn't get the thing off mute. You can just call me Reynolds, Coach. My question is, you're pretty realistic, and you've mentioned several times conference championship wasn't really something realistic for this year. What's your measure of success for this season?
One, getting through the season, and I think the success of us not, our guys having done a good job of not getting COVID. That's first and foremost. As COVID goes along, people forget. I think it's been a little bit later out here, kind of where we're living at, whether that's Wyoming, Colorado, and early on, you didn't see the impacts that maybe it had on some of the other people. And until you start seeing some of these people and you start having family members, or you start having friends of families. And, I had a very good friend of mine growing up, whose father passed away 3 days ago. Just out of nowhere. And so sometimes we forget that, you are dealing with something that's, very, that has a great impact on people, and, you can't take it lightly. And as much as it's great for us to have the opportunity to play, I don't want to see my parents. My parents haven't been able to come up to a game all year. They're still waiting for a vaccine down in Denver. And so, to run the risk of, me or them coming up here, that's the biggest thing. I'm just so proud of our guys for the effort that, they've put forth. And it's a hard year. I just think the fact that, we can try to get a little bit better, and you can see, those guys have gotten better. Marcus Williams, those young guys, Quan Marble, from the time that I've gotten here till now, it's been night and day. And not just on the court, it's just behind the scenes in terms of in practice, and these guys understanding how hard you have to work in practice. And we still got a long ways to go, but that's how you start building a program. It's not, you're not just starting from, at the top. It's a process, and I've been through it, know how it feels. Some days it sucks, but at the same time, in due time, these young guys, the bumps and bruises that they're taking now, it's going to pay off, because you can't put a price on experience. And that's what these guys are getting right now, is experience at, within it's a free year. They're all going to be freshmen again next year, sophomores. And so, but same time too, everybody else in the league is going to be the same age. So can't use that as, can't sit there and just say, hey, we're going to be a year older. Well, everybody else is too, but we just got to keep getting better. And if we do that, I'd be worried if the talent piece wasn't there, because ultimately there's no Hall of Fame coach without Hall of Fame players. And if I sat there and I was watching the game and thinking our talent level wasn't good enough, then I would be concerned. But our talent level is good enough. It's just, you got some young puppies that got to grow up. Tracy.
Would it seem like, given the fact that you have a short roster right now and you've got 3 commitments for next year, that in some ways this may work as an advantage for you, because some schools may be limited in what they can bring in if they don't waive roster limitations?
Yeah, it's, that's the nice part. On that, and that's, a calculated risk or decision that I made when I got the job, is that, you have 13 scholarships, and I think the mistake a lot of coaches make when they get jobs is that they want to fill all those scholarships, and knowing that in the springtime, supply and demand, there's not as many players, and especially players that are good enough to help you win at this level. And now we were lucky and we got some guys and that were plenty good enough, but at the same time, I wanted, as we moved forward, knowing that, guys might get their year back, and knowing that with the pandemic, things might be different, is that I wanted to have us, opportunity to be able to recruit some guys. And so even though it's hurt us in terms of the numbers in practice and the number of bodies that we've had throughout the course of the year, I just thought in the long run, that was going to be the best thing for the program. And so to be able to have, the 2 freshmen that are coming in, to have Brennan Wenzel, who's sitting out right now, who's able to practice with us. And, you add those guys to the guys we got, and then, Owen's back, Kenny's back. It's, you got enough pieces. Reynolds.
Coach, as far as where you see this team, if it was a child, is it crawling? Is it doing that weird standing thing before they can walk? Is it walking? Obviously we're not at running yet.
No, it's just being young. I got a 5-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old. I know all the stages of child development. I just think it's, they're freshmen. They're freshmen and sophomores, and you look at the teams in this league that are playing well, and San Diego State, when you're looking at the roster, it's their starting 5. It's senior, 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 junior. And you look at Utah State's roster. junior, senior, from, one freshman. But, I just think that it's just a matter of continue to build those habits, and for us to see, they have to see and feel what it's like to play against this team. That's why I'm disappointed that we can't play Utah State, because Utah State from a defensive standpoint, they're right there with San Diego State. They're an elite defensive team, and especially when you have a guy like Keita who can erase a lot of mistakes. And so it doesn't help us not playing Utah State, because I think it's it's a team that it'll expose you in where you're weak at, and that's why we always scrimmaged them. He knew that when I was at Northern Colorado that we would expose them early on to where they could go back to the drawing board and figure out some things, and we knew the same. And so that's where right now, we've gotten exposed, but at the same time, those guys have figured, gotten Marcus, those young guys, they've all gotten better. Their habits and practice have gotten better, and then they're starting to realize how hard you have to play every possession. Second half of that CSU game, the last 8 minutes of the game, they don't score a field goal, and so that's progress, because up to that point, teams were scoring a lot of field goals on us, and so it's baby steps. If you've ever seen the movie about What About Bob, it's baby steps right now.
All right, guys, we got any more questions for Coach? All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff.